Hi there, everybody. Good afternoon. How are you? Another gorgeous day here in Saskatchewan. Can't stay out of the sun if it's out. It's just gorgeous. 15 degrees. I'm just going to wait for a few people to hop on here. I've got a pretty big lineup today. Huge. And I'm going to start out with the fact that, well, Alberta came down real hard last night. Kenny made his announcement. And this morning, the owner of the Whistle Stop there in Mirror, Alberta, who has been, well, pushing back since the get-go, he arrived at his establishment and found it all locked up by AHS, Alberta Health Services. Different than the guy out in Ontario, Adam Skelly. He didn't break through, but what he did was he threw on a barbecue. And I just saw Facebook and it looks like a whole lot of people showed up. That is fantastic. I don't blame Adam for what he did, for sure, but we saw how that ended. And right now, it's important that this guy just keep his income generating best he can. And again, inspire people to come out and support him. Make the drive. Because, well, it's lovely out. So why not take a drive and go for a burger and enjoy the hospitality of a small businessman who is literally being put under by a tyrannical system that is not of our making. It's not. Hey, Erica, how are you? Anna, Wendy. Wendy. I don't check my mailbox often, but got it. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Local writer from Regina, and can't wait to dig in. The mail's like the phone for me. I don't pay much attention to it. But I'm going to dig into that very, very soon. Thank you so much. So Mirror, Alberta, that was a big one. I just got a little bit of a heads up, or a big heads up from Ontario. I have a friend, and she's received a heads up from a contact that she knows and trusts implicitly. Apparently, May 15th weekend in both Montreal and Toronto there's military reinforcements coming in already. They know it's a worldwide event, and after seeing 250,000 people in Montreal this past weekend, Trudeau is a bit concerned. I just received info that the convoy of military vehicles was seen on the 401 today, heading towards TO, around 1 p.m. around Colborne, Ontario. I read it was up to 100,000. So this report is a little different at 250,000. So again, there's a lot of people gathering in these big centers now, and they are literally sending in the reinforcements. And they're doing that and dropping these measures because the public is getting perturbed. They're driving up the fear continually. Yet I just got, like 10 minutes ago, another report. A woman who regularly visits a Swift Current hospital, and she said it's a little busier than it was 3 weeks ago, but by no means swamped. No, it's not what we're seeing. It's not what we're hearing. I got an invite to a group that was all about, posting these empty hospital pics, and well, I did that a year ago March and got chased out, scared out of my wits. I'm not the type that, usually gets snagged by security. So, it was a shocking event for me. But they didn't like that I took a picture, and I didn't even go inside, but it didn't matter. They were going to intimidate the hell out of me. And literally, I had to run my ass off. I did. I heard sirens, and I thought for sure it was for me. So anyway, again, I had a friend go through 2 hospitals. We did that in December. And after the second one I posted, I had police at my door, 5:30 a.m. with a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. But at the end of the day, This is what's going on. These groups aren't going to last long, and this is the thing. We really need to get off this platform because it is coming down beyond. Things are cranking up. We know that. Saskatchewan, again, putting the fear of God into everyone. It's happening across the country. And on Monday in my video, I talked about all of these perimeter locations. Again, like New Brunswick with 2 people in ICU. Why? Doesn't make any sense. Locking down between borders. And again, I believe that's because it is heating up, because people have had enough. And they're worried. All part of the plan. In any case, I want to bring you today to, well, discuss how the plan, Agenda 2030, and the goals of which we have literally been reset, how they came about, and where all the money's coming from all of this. We know that there's UN support, but the more I dig, the more I see these forces that have been guiding us there. And I want to kind of bring you into the loop on what I'm learning. And I thought today we would start with a 2008 piece that I found. And this is on sovereign wealth funds. And I imagine this is one of the first videos to start raising alarm bells. And let's take a look over there. Oh, just let me check here. Erica, there was a pic posted from a hospital worker in Sarnia, Ontario, reading a book. Doing TikTok videos. Well, they don't do that here, or I haven't seen any yet. But yeah, I walk by that hospital. I walk by both of them regularly, and it's literally, I've never seen them so empty. The parking lots are empty. There's no action. It's crazy. Any case, let's learn about sovereign wealth funds. And I'm going to play just about this whole 10-minute video because honestly, this is a lot of the information that we sort of, well, again, most of the world missed. And now here we are with a lot of nations' interests here in Canada, in our nation. And again, we are being and have been reset to this plan, Agenda 2030, that has been created abroad. Originally was not created here. This is not homegrown, and our future on this earth is not homegrown. It's not. Let's go and check this out. So this is from 2008.
5 years, sovereign wealth funds will be around $10 trillion. It's enough to make you wonder what they are and what they actually do. The massive state-owned investment funds, which often make their money from gas and oil, are naturally secretive things, naturally. But in this age of the credit crunch, they may well be riding to our rescue. Our economics editor, Stephanie Flanders, reports.
Unfortunately, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers aren't the only game in town anymore, hon.
The credit crunch has had its villains, but also its white knights. Massive state-owned investment funds that have risen up out of the desert, many of them, to bail out American banks. Pretty handy, all things considered. But some wonder whether the money comes with strings attached.
In the last 9 months, sovereign wealth funds have injected more than $70 billion into Western banks. $7 billion of that's come from Dubai. And there have been other high-profile purchases. P&O, a big chunk of Standard Chartered Bank, maybe one of these days, Liverpool Football Club. Who knows?
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there because, yes, they actually went after a football club, the Saudi Foreign Wealth Fund, and as well, the UAE and Kuwait were amongst the first sovereign wealth funds in the world, and those started in the late 70s.
You know, if the oil price stays high, the buying power of these funds is only going to grow.
Worldwide, sovereign wealth funds are thought to have about $2.8 trillion to invest, slightly more than Britain's entire GDP. By 2012, the IMF thinks that will grow to $10 trillion, partly because of the rise in the price of oil. Oil and gas-related funds already account for about 2 trillion, or 72% of the total. If the oil price stays at $100 a barrel, the Gulf states alone could have an extra $3.8 trillion by 2012.
And they say 10 trillion by 2030.
I've come here to find out how the petro funds are planning to invest all that money around the world. But the first lesson I had to learn was that no one wants anything to do with the words sovereign wealth.
Sorry, guys.
Look at the press that sovereign wealth funds have been attracting in the last few months. It has not been very favorable, and as a result, people have hesitations about using those terms. They become to connote things which is different from what these funds were originally set up for.
I have a little suspicion, and I kind of think that some of these sovereign wealth funds have been fashioned like companies, but we're going to continue here.
It's not the only thing they're wary about. By and large, they don't like to give much away.
They were very secretive.
This is one of the things that makes people suspicious about the sovereign wealth funds. Behind me in this big silver building is the headquarters of the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, by far the biggest sovereign wealth fund in the world. We think they've got about $800 billion to play with, but no one really knows for sure, and no one in there ever talks. In fact, we've had trouble getting any of the funds out here to talk to us. That's one problem. The other, of course, is they're all owned by foreign governments. Dubai got a rude awakening in 2005 when a government-owned company bought P&O and tried to take charge of its port operations in the US. Didn't go down well at all.
In the post-9/11 world, port security is too important an issue to be treated so cavalierly.
I just want to make sure that they are folks who are going to be vigilant with respect to the security of the cargo that comes in here.
Dubai gave up that fight pretty quickly. For the chief economist of one Dubai investment fund, it sent a discouraging message.
The message that we always used to get was that you have to be more open and globalized, right? And the countries of the region took that message clearly on board. They've opened up their economies. Their capital accounts and current accounts have always been open. And now that they want to invest assets, people now tell them, globalization can only go one way. We cannot have that.
They're not just foreign governments, but undemocratic, most of them. These funds don't give much away. That's one of the things that makes people nervous. Many worry they'll become an extension of government policy. The IMF, George Bush and the European Commission are all calling for greater transparency and codes of conduct to keep governments in their proper place, all of which smells like double dealing around here.
Let's look at the major funds that have been active. You've got private equity funds, you've got hedge funds, you've got lots of investment funds. Now, we don't request those to be transparent and open. And if you want greater transparency and disclosure, then that has to be a general rule as opposed to being something specific and directed at the sovereign wealth funds.
You can see their point. After all, it's not their fault they're so rich. Countries create these funds because when you're making a fortune out of oil or another commodity boom, it's hard to invest all that money at home, especially in the desert. But here in Abu Dhabi, they're having a blooming good try.
This will be the largest Guggenheim museum in the world, designed by Frank Gehry. What you see.
Abu Dhabi is pouring money into making their happiness island the magnet for culture vultures in 10 or 20 years' time. It may sound mad, but there'll be a Guggenheim museum designed by Frank Gehry, a performing arts centre by Zaha Hadid, and a branch of the Louvre, not to mention a Warner Brothers theme park and 11 miles of sandy beach. What makes you think, if you build all these things in the middle of the desert, that anyone will come to see it?
We are sure people will come. I was talking to the GM of the Louvre the other day, and he said, I'm interviewing people to work for the Louvre in Paris, but 90% of the people I met were asking me, can we move and work in the Louvre in Abu Dhabi in the future? So we are sure, I mean, this is going to bring visitors from all over the world, people interested in art and architecture.
They intend to be the next
Plans are all about
Europe.
investing for a time after oil, and so are the foreign investment funds. That's why people here say the funds are unlikely to use their money for political ends.
These are countries which are producing now a non-renewable product, which is the hydrocarbon resources, and which would like to use some of the proceeds to develop the countries, but some of the proceeds to set aside in order to create a source of income for the country for when this non-renewable resource runs out. If this is your objective, I don't see why you would necessarily then move into active management.
But others think their ambitions will inevitably expand in line with their wealth, especially when it comes to strategic investments to boost their own economies.
There is a sense of these funds coming into their own because they are getting to be such critical mass and to such critical scale, and they're wanting to expand their footprint in the global capital market.
She's with World Economic Forum now.
It's not just deepening any one asset base, but expanding across all asset bases.
I don't think you have to worry about sovereign wealth funds seizing control of your ATM. But here's something you should worry about. With all the billions, trillions of dollars flowing into these...
And this is interesting. And I'm going to let it play out because it basically just deletes out what she's saying. And I've looked for this film and I can't find it anywhere, but they scrubbed it until now.
We have seen over the last crisis that they didn't always make the wisest decisions.
They are very conscious of the fact that the last great oil bonanza of the 70s was frittered away.
At that time, we called the oil revenues petrodollars. They merely transited through the economies of the region and then were redeployed outside the region. The bottom line was that the region didn't benefit much from the petrodollars because you simply did not have the absorptive capacity. So I think the absorptive capacity both on the economic side as well as on the financial side is greatly strengthened, has been greatly strengthened in the past few years, allowing the countries of the region to benefit from these financial resources.
So this is big for them. And this was back in 2008 when they did this film. And as you saw, they were scrubbing out some of the worries that the international folks had regarding sovereignty. And again, all of this funding being injected into our economies and not so transparently. It's big. Whoops. Thinking Abu Dhabi, I actually sent Nada masks, 5 of them, 6 of them, and I got it returned, wrong address. I thought they snagged my face coverings. Now, I came across this piece with Trump, and this was 2016, and I'm just quickly going to play it because he completely changes his tune with the arms deal to the Saudis. So listen to this.
Do you think Islam is at war with the West?
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred. There's a tremendous hatred. We have to get to the bottom of it. There is an unbelievable hatred of us.
In Islam itself?
You're going to have to figure that out, okay? You'll get another Pulitzer, right? But you're going to have to figure that out. But there is a tremendous hatred. And we have to be very vigilant. We have to be very careful. And we can't allow people coming into this country who have this hatred of the United States.
I guess the question is...
And of people that are not Muslim.
I guess the question is there a war between the West and radical Islam, or is there a war between the West and Islam?
It's radical, but it's very hard to define. It's very hard to separate because you don't know who's who.
And that was the predominant... I don't know why my phone... Oh, there we are. That was the predominant feeling. Of course, until Vision 2030. And that's Mohammed bin Salman's vision for Saudi Arabia and that region. And of course, I've seen a lot of footage. There's Trump sitting with Mohammed bin Salman and talking about the arms deal, even after the Khashoggi murder in which bin Salman has been implicated. So at the end of the day, again, interests have been interweaved in so many ways that it's not transparent for us to see. Not anymore. And between all of their corporate activities and then, of course, joint activities, as you're going to see in the next pieces, Vision 2030 isn't just the vision of bin Salman. It's the vision of visionaries of the world. So we're going to sit down and just listen to a couple of pieces and a few videos and listen to what he has to say, and then some of these visionaries.
تصنع قوانين بناء على هذا الإجراء حسب المتعارف عليه دوليا. إذا تبغى سايح يجيك تستهدف 100 مليون سايح يعني خلق 3 مليون وظيفة وتقول أنا عندي حاجة جديدة اخترعتها وغير القوانين والآلية المتعارف فيها لن يأتيك. إذا أنت تبغى تضاعف مثل ما ضاعفنا الاستثمارات الأجنبية من 5 مليار ريال إلى 17 مليار ريال وتقول تعال استثمر عندي لكن أنا عندي اختراع جديد لا محاميه يعرف وش الإجراءات اللي تعملها ولا يعرف كيف تطبق ويحتاج أن يستثمر فيها مبالغ ضخمة يقول لك بلا الاستثمار في هذه الدولة. لما تيجي تستقطب عقول وقدرات بشرية للعمل في المملكة العربية السعودية وتقول أنا عندي اختراع جديد لطريقة عمل قوانين وسن القوانين لن يأتيك أي أحد. فأنت تملك القوانين المتعارف عليها دوليا بناء على دستورك قرآن وبناء على مصالحك وبناء على مستهدفاتك وبناء على حفظ أمن ومصالح المواطن ودفع تنمية وازدهار الوطن.
الرؤية تجسد معنى الانفتاح على العالم. كيف تنظر سمو الأمير إلى حالة القلق على الهوية، الممانعة، التوجس، الخوف عند شريحة من المجتمع تجاه هذا الانفتاح اللي نشوفه في السياحة وفي الترفيه وفي غيرها؟
إذا هويتك لن تستطيع أن تصمد بعد تنوع كبير في العالم معناتها هويتك ضعيفة ويجب أن نستغني عنها. وإذا هويتك قوية وأصيلة تستطيع أن تنميها وتطورها وتعدل السلبيات اللي فيها وتحفز الإيجابيات اللي فيها معناتها تحافظ على هويتك وقوتها. يعني دليل اليوم لبسنا في المملكة العربية السعودية وعاداتنا العريقة وتقاليدنا وإرثنا الثقافي والتاريخي وقبل كل ذلك إرثنا الإسلامي يشكل جزء رئيسي من هويتنا نطوره مع تطوير الزمان ونستمر في تعزيزه لكي يكون أحد عناصر تشكيل العالم واحد عناصر الأشكال الموجودة في العالم.
Okay, so he's talking about being a world-shaping force. And he's also, of course, becoming much more moderate or presenting himself to be. And well, that's not in 100% agreement, but of course in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what he's done is actually consolidated power since he rose in the ranks, and he's actually the reigning ruler right now. It's his dad, but he's the one in action. And well, he sent many of his prince family, all the princes, a bunch of them ended up at the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh, and they were actually held prisoner until they succumbed to what he was doing. In fact, I watched a special the other night, and he actually had talents to all of these different ministries because he went in early on and he literally connected himself throughout the government. So when he struck, and it was all about Vision 2030 and the future of Saudi Arabia. But from what I'm seeing, it's a whole lot more than that. And again, presenting a more moderate Islam when that's not really the case within the laws of Sharia. Now I'm going to flip to 1414. And as usual, I'm going to put all of my references, all these little films, in the comments so you can check it out. Here we are. He's talking about foreign policy.
مصالح المملكة السعودية هو يعني نفوذ لتحقيق مصلحة. فمثلا لما نتكلم عن صندوق الاستثمارات العامة مثال، لما يكون عنده نفوذ في أنحاء العالم.
This is the sovereign wealth fund.
في أنحاء العالم ويكون محرك رئيسي لقطاعات كثيرة في أنحاء العالم، معناته أصبح العالم منفتح على استثمارات الصندوق، وأصبح الصندوق يجذب الفرص الجديدة لكي نستثمر فيها ورصدها. كثير من الاستثمارات أتت لنا بسبب نفوذ صندوق الاستثمارات العامة وسمعتها اللي خلقت في بداية الرؤية. من ضمنها مثلا لو بتكلم عن استثمار أوبر، ليس الصندوق اللي بحث عنه، أوبر هي اللي أتت للصندوق. فخلق النفوذ في جوانب مختلفة لتحقيق مصلحة للمملكة العربية السعودية ما في شك هذا شيء مطلوب، بما لا يتعارض مع ميثاق الأمم المتحدة وبما لا يتعارض مع قوانين دول العالم.
السعودية وأمريكا.
Now that's interesting because again, he's talking. Now, the language always gets me. It's a bit of a wordsmither. Catalyst. See, that used to be a term more of the West. We were the catalysts, but now they are catalysts. And it's true because again, they're within the handful of originators of Agenda 2030. And again, they are going at this full bore. Now let's get you to the next film. Where are we? Yes. We're going to talk about the vision of Vision 2030.
رؤية 2030 لكي نزيل التحديات التي تواجهنا ولكي نستغل الفرص الغير مستغلة اللي قد تكون بحجم 90% من وضع اليوم، ونستمر في النمو والازدهار وننافس على كل الجبهات في أنحاء العالم.
5 سنوات، ما أهم الإنجازات اللي تحققت خلال السنوات الخمس؟
الإنجازات كثيرة جدا، لكن لو بتكلم يعني أهم التحديات اللي كانت موجودة قبل، إنه مثلا نتكلم عن موضوع الإسكان. كان لدينا مشكلة إسكان عمرها 20 سنة لم نستطع لحلها، والمواطن ينتظر حتى يحصل على القرض أو الدعم السكني 15 عام تقريبا. مستوى نسب الإسكان لم ترتفع، دائما ما بين 40-50%. قبل الرؤية كانت 47%. رصد مثلا لها في عهد الملك عبد الله رحمه الله 250 مليار ريال سعودي في 2011. في 2015 لم يصرف من هذه 250 مليار الا فقط 2 مليار ريال، ولم تستغل ولم تتمكن وزارة الإسكان من.
Okay, so basically they're talking about the fact that bureaucracy was killing them for getting anything underway. So the young prince was a little bit perturbed with all of that, and he thought a lot of that should go away. Now, we've all seen in Canada, United States, everywhere around the world, that this disruption has literally disrupted how things are done. They've rerouted them. And again, we keep wondering how they are just pummeling our rights and treating them as if they don't exist. Because this is where it gets interesting. Again, in these little conversations, you find so many little tidbits. He's talking right now about how a commercial license used to take a long time. So here we go.
مثلا كان يستغرق ايام حتى تستخرج سجلك التجاري، تمر على اكثر من 6 جهات حكوميه. اليوم الالكتروني تستخرجه في نصف ساعه. الاستثمارات الاجنبيه تضاعفت 3 مرات تقريبا او اكثر، من 5 مليار ريال.
You see, by doing away with rules or former rules of engagement, they've shot their economy ahead. All the corporations have. Okay, so again, this disruption, this is exactly what it did. It was a chance to literally reshape the way things had been done, to divert former bureaucracies. Like right now, for example, public health, well, seemingly has more power than the police, right? Now, public health never had that power before, but now they do under the World Health Organization. Half of the battle here is that a lot of people don't understand the protocol or the structure of things. It was completely disrupted on January 30th, 2020. And I mean 2020, a year and a bit ago. that's when the World Health Organization took control of this matter. And then that's when our countries fell to shit, right? That's exactly when it happened. And what happens under that scenario is that the AHS or the SHA here in Saskatchewan, they all fall under the World Health Organization and TAM. The government is just there for their antics. The press releases, the edicts, but they don't have any power right now. They don't. Public health supersedes all of it. And again, this is how you enact change. This is how the corporations have literally been able to supersede our rights and freedoms. Because again, all bets are off is what I'm trying to explain. Now, we're going to flip on to, that was really how all the bureaucracy went away. And he's describing that. Now, the thing is, like, a lot of people aren't getting the fact that, well, they have this future city and it's called Neom. And this has garnered absolute international attention. And I'm going to take you to the next piece because this was from the Future Investments Initiative and in 2017. So 4 years ago, right? And I was pretty interested to see all the power players there. It's interesting to be where you are now and look back at how it came about. This is what I'm doing, and I'm spending most of my time on these days, is trying to piece together how it all occurred. How did we get to where we are? Because there was a buildup, and there's definitely a huge financial cartel behind this. The globalists. And they've been organized for a long time. So let me take you. Now, this is, again, the Future Investments Initiative. And, well, first I want to draw your attention to the room. Because, as usual in Saudi, it's all men. Except they incorporated a woman for this one, too. Just one.
Our ambition. It starts with over 26,000 square kilometers of land, set in an ideal location where 3 continents meet. Right at the heart of the world's transport, trade and telecoms routes, a place rich in natural resources with a generous climate. Here we see the birth of NEOM, the world's most ambitious project, a destination of the future, a vision that is becoming reality. We see a chance to design a better way of life with a blueprint for sustainable living. We see a place that will inspire new learning, create new industries, and encourage enterprise, invention, and ingenuity. A hive of creativity and a new home of culture. A roadmap for the future of civilization. We see a new way, a new era. We see NEOM.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the anchor and global markets editor at Fox Business Network, Maria Bartiromo.
So she's the token woman in a very important position for this event. Of course, that's for the public. No skirts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be with you this afternoon as we kick off a very special part of the program right now. As we watch something of a revolution happening here in Saudi Arabia as the kingdom looks to growth. Let me introduce the vision behind that growth story. Please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, His Royal Highness, Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
I want them to introduce the other players, just so you know who you're dealing with.
And now, our other panelists. Please welcome to the stage Stephen A. Schwarzman, Chairman and CEO and co-founder of the Blackstone Group.
Okay, remember we talked...
Shusan, Chairman and CEO of the SoftBank Group of Japan. Mark Rayburn, CEO, Boston Dynamics of the USA.
Those are those robo-dogs.
And Klaus Kleinfeld, the former Chairman and CEO, Arconic and Alcoa, former President and CEO, Siemens, of the USA.
Okay, I'm going to take you over a little further. I just wanted you to know who those guys were because, again, important stuff. We're at 1444. Where are you? Come on. All right. Now, the one thing about these players and the last guy that they introduced, I thought it was interesting because he's rather involved with the World Economic Forum. And now, again, this was 2017, he's the personal advisor now to the Prince. Bin Salman. Okay, here we go. Hi, Joe. Just in time.
70% من الشعب السعودي أقل من 30 سنة. وبكل صراحة لن نضيع 30 سنة من حياتنا.
So first he's talking about extremism.
أفكار متطرفة. سوف ندمرهم اليوم وفورا. نريد أن نعيش حياة طبيعية، حياة تترجم ديننا السمح وعاداتنا وتقاليدنا الطيبة، ونتعايش مع العالم ونساهم في تنمية وطننا وطن العالم. فهذا أمر أعتقد أنه اتخذت خطوات في الفترة الماضية واضحة، وأعتقد أنه سوف نقضي على بقايا التطرف في القريب العاجل. فلا أعتقد أن هذا تحدي، لأننا نمثل القيم السمحة والمعتدلة والصحيحة، والقضية معنا والحق معنا احنا في كل ما نواجهه. لذلك لا أعتقد أن هذا غلط.
Okay, well, that's pretty interesting because you have to remember back to 2000, early 2000s with China, and it was the very same thing was said. Again, this is the same crown prince that is now implicated conclusively, they say, with no penalty, to the luring of a Saudi journalist to the embassy in Istanbul, to the Saudi embassy, where they dismembered his body. So the prince is getting a lot of great press for all his advances. But at the end of the day, his tactics are no different than they were in the past. Nothing's changed. It's all shine from what I can see. Now let me go to, oh, you know what? Did I miss that part? I think I did. The first one. Whoa. Sorry, these get so... It was 444. I think I missed that part. Yeah, I did. Okay. Just so you understand what's going on and why Saudi Arabia is so critically important, okay? Here we go.
السياسية القوية والرغبة والإرادة الشعبية القوية. كل عناصر نجاح موجودة لخلق شيء عظيم وكبير داخل المملكة العربية السعودية. فبعد وجود كل هذه الفرص والمقومات وأرض شبه خالية، بدأنا نفكر لماذا نبني مدينة وزون بشكل تقليدي. لدينا فرصة فرصة ننتقل إلى جيل جديد من طريقة الحياة، من المدن، من التقنيات، من الصحة، الخدمات إلى آخره. فبدأنا نعمل مع العديد من الشركات والمستثمرين ورواد الأعمال لبلورة كل هذه الأفكار واستغلال هذا الطلب والقدرة الهائلة لخلق شيء جديد في العالم ونقل العالم إلى موقع جديد. لدينا اليوم مجموعة من الأصدقاء الذي عملنا معهم الفترة الماضية على هذا المشروع. ناسا لديه حلم أن يبني أكبر شرائح طاقة شمسية في العالم في مشروع اليوم. يريد أن يبني شيء أعظم من سور الصين عظيم لكن على شكل ألواح شمسية. ستيف أهم الصناديق في العالم ولا يريد أن يفوت فرصة أن يكون موجود في مشروع ينقل طريقة الحياة البشرية بشكل مختلف. مارك يريد أن يدخل معنا في تصميم هذا المشروع وتخطيطه لكي يخلق لنفسه ديماند أو لكي يخلق لروبوتاته ديماند كبير جدا في هذا المشروع. يريد أن يكون عدد الروبوتات في هذا المشروع أكثر من عدد البشر.
He wants more robots on the project than humans.
ترك كل الفرص الكبرى اللي عنده وآمن بهذه القضية لكي ينشأها ويضع بصمته في مشروع سوف يغير الكثير من المعادن.
This is groundbreaking, you guys, and this is literally the prototype, I believe, to the future of cities and exactly what Agenda 2030 is going to look like. Okay. We want to live a normal life. This comes from a crown prince who's grown up around harems his entire life. Yeah. And Maktoum over in UAE, he wanted to, he wanted his 12-year-old daughter for him. Yeah, I think he's had it good. Now, again, these players and just the things they discuss, because again, you get these clues. Now, again, this was 4 years ago, right? So they were planning all of this. This is in this discussion, in all of these economic discussions. Honestly, they get rather dry, and every once in a while I go, whoa, I hit some gold. So we're at 25:19. Yeah. Okay, we've got,
So what happened in Chicago is they ended up building the tallest buildings in the world.
This is after the Great Fires of Chicago.
Because they have the technology to do it. They use their land more efficiently. And Chicago became the second largest city in the United States with great prosperity. Now in Saudi, you have the advantage you don't have to knock down, an obsolete city. Those of us who live in the West, call it the developed world more than just the West, we
Now, of course, you're hearing just that. Incumbent cities, again, outdated. They can't deal with the technology that they need to advance. And hence, why are all these small businesses being gutted? Because again, they're not going to be part of that infrastructure. They're not going to work hand in hand with the plan like the corporations will. They know that, again, cities, well, are they going to destroy them in order to, or are they going to build them in other locales? This is what's interesting. Now, where Neom is, they're going to put 170 kilometers called the line. And they're going to build literally in a linear fashion. And of course, communities built so that everything is like a 10-minute walk away. That you can be from one end to the other in 20 minutes and 170 kilometers. It's interesting. But what also the big thing about these cities is the biotechnology. You see, biotechnology is a big part of this because it is ultimate control of everything. The weather, health, monitoring, security. And again, it's all integrated. Now, can these cities support that many people? This is the thing. And of course, we know that these vaccines are, well, causing havoc. And they will. Because again, this whole new order cannot support what we currently have. They need to get us into a more orderly fashion, like cattle. That's the idea. Because this biotechnology is literally the boom, 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 boom. Oh! Sorry to laugh, but you get to a point where you've got to make fun of these carnage, because that's exactly what it is. Very frustrating. Let's listen to the prince.
Your Highness, this is a very important point. And here, you're beginning from scratch. You have foreigners, foreign businesses watching. What do you need most to make this a reality?
بداية مصطفى ميزة مهمة جدا. وهذا اللي نركز عليه اليوم. مخطط المدينة للتقنيات المستقبلية. ففي أشياء كثيرة نستطيع أن نضعها اللي بدأناها من الصفر. مثلا الدرون تكون جزء من نقل المدينة. لا يمكن اليوم أي مدينة في العالم أن تستعمل درونز داخل المدينة لأن لا توجد بنية تحتية من مواقف العماير نفسها إلى آخره. ففي أشياء كثيرة بتراعى التخطيط الأول للمدينة لأساليب النقل. اليوم لا نعرف إذا تكون مدينة فيها سيارات أو سيارات بدون قائد أو حتى
Oh, he knows.
تعتمد على تقنيات نقل أخرى. هذا الشيء ينطبق على كل القطاعات. فهناك فرصة جديدة للتخطيط من الصفر وبناء زون ومدينة جديدة من الصفر. مثل ما ذكر ستيف، لن يستطيع أحد أن يبني شيء مثل اليوم إلا في حالة واحدة، أن يدمر مدينة قائمة ويعيد بنائها من جديد. لكن لا يمكن لأي مدينة في العالم أن تتحول تصبح مثل ما سوف تكون اليوم في المستقبل.
Masa, have you ever seen...
This is interesting because, again, they continue to allude to the destruction and rebuilding. Again, you cannot... When the whole G thing went south in the fall, when they censored and banned all of that type of discussion, again, we had a lot of people in the protests trying to interject that issue, but at the end of the day, see, none of this can exist without all of it. Because according to one of those experts, the guy with the robo-dogs, they expect something like 10 billion robots on the planet by 2030. A lot. They're looking to have robots, again, take care of the elderly. All of those nurses that are sitting there working, watching this go down. Guess what your karma is going to be? A robot taking your job and AI. You see, you're going to get screwed. either way. It's just a matter of time. So I would, do something with all that security you've built and maybe retrain yourself, because they don't care about you. You're just collateral damage, like the teachers, because in Neom, guess what they're doing there? Holographic teachers. They won't need you either. And you guys are going to be on universal basic income because you're not resilient like the kids. You don't understand all these new technologies, and they're not really going to need you. So that's what you get for betraying all of us. Debbie, oh, thank you. My whole thing is connecting the dots. And I think a lot of I found that a lot of truthers tend to just parrot the lines. There's a lot more going on than the same story from 20 years ago. We need to expand on it, and we need to look at what's going on. And that is Vision 2030 with Saudi, with all the Arab nations have one of those plans, and they all support each other. You know what's interesting about the whole building from the ground up? I started looking last night, and you see in the UAE, one of their big industries is going to be 3D printing. Now, you can 3D print weapons. You can. There's recipes on the internet to build a gun with 3D printing. But you can also use this, you can 3D print with sand. So what they've got here, in the middle of that desert, they've got the wind, they've got the sun, because solar is going to be massive, and they can actually 3D print the solar panels can be produced from the sand. And again, so can the structures. There is so much to be done in this with all these new technologies. But the kicker is that with all of this investment they're going to get into Neom, they're going to own all that technology. And what are they going to do with it? They're going to license it. Of course, that's what they're going to do, because that's the plan. And the more successful they become, the more that they own, because it's getting pretty extensive. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that this week. Again, going through the sovereign wealth funds, because they have one. And again, they weren't the first to go. Kuwait and UAE were amongst the first sovereign wealth funds. And again, that was way back in I think it was like 74. So a long time ago, they've been operational. Now, when you start talking about Neom, this is another interesting component, an interesting component of all of the plans of this region. You see, here in the West, there's no mention of religion or any of that. It's inclusion, diversity, and they don't talk a whole lot about that. Why? Because that's embraced in Islam. But being a good Muslim is a cornerstone of all of their plans. And this is where I start to go back to Vernon Coleman's videos on Chrislam. Because again, here we are a year ago, we've been reset to a new way of being in public. Again, they were within the handful of creators of this vision. They are manifesting it, yes, in their own society, but they're also manifesting here, all over the world, as is China. These plans were not homegrown. And again, what they are is beneficial to, again, all the visionaries involved in Neom. Because again, Neom is a prototype, and every technology will be capitalized upon. They're going to own it. And how's that going to work out? Crazy times, guys. But I thought it would be fun just to introduce you to, the players that we don't hear about. Because in these sovereign wealth funds, they weren't meant to be transparent. They were meant to encompass investment in a more anonymous fashion. The Norwegians right now have the largest sovereign wealth fund, but after that it goes Abu Dhabi, Kuwait. Again, Saudi's right up there too. But then they have different funds And again, they amass a huge amount of not only money, but power. And again, the Saudis are working hand in hand with Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, SoftBank. Again, they're all in on it and invested in the success of these technologies. But this isn't organic. This is all being mapped out. And what we need to understand is NEOM is where it's rolling out, where there's no barriers, no existing rules, no existing business. And again, what they're going to do in this area is actually tailor a more international, they say, a more international way of doing business. And I'm not sure how they're going to, how that's going to work. Because again, they talk big, but as you can see from this audience, as you saw at the front, there's no women there. Except for the one to interview him on international television. They don't live what they speak. In any case, hey Carrie, Bill, Merritt, nice to see all of you. Joe, Debbie, Gary, Larry, Sean, Jennifer, Tamara, Sandra, Mo, nice to see everybody. Bianca, Erica, Linda, lots of people today. That's awesome. We need to, again, learn where all of this is coming from and what we recognize or don't recognize in our own society anymore. And again, public modesty is a new feature. And, well, there's actually a whole halal fashion, and it's modest fashion that is emerging in this project. So again, stay tuned. I'm going to keep going through all of this. There's so much. I'm just trying to break it down best I can and bring you a new perspective. Because again, all those people going, oh yeah, they're nothing. They're bigger than we understand, and they're shaping what's going on in our nations. They are, because they're invested in every bit of it. Have a great day, everybody.